Something been brewing in Pittsburgh, and you can feel it every time the whistle blows. Because lately, it's not just about wins and losses. It's about headlines that keep popping up with the same ugly theme. Steelers players getting hit with fines, discipline, and all this extra noise that makes the team look less like the tough, controlled franchise everyone respects, and more like a group that's losing the plot under pressure. And before anyone jumps in with, "That's Steelers football, that's just physical," let's be real. There's a difference between playing violent and playing undisciplined. There's a difference between setting the tone and losing your temper. One wins you games in January, the other hands your opponent free yards, free first downs, and free momentum. That's why people are asking, what's actually wrong with them right now? Because it isn't just one guy. You've got the DK Metcalf situation being talked about like a discipline problem. You've got the Yahya Black incident being mentioned in the same breath, another moment where emotions, aggression, and control got questioned. And then you've got the one that really stings because it directly changed a football game. Alex Highsmith getting a huge fine for a play that was called on the field, turned into a 15-yard penalty, and helped move the Lions into Steelers territory on Detroit's final drive. That moment is the type that makes coaches sick. Not because a player is bad, not because the player doesn't care, but because it screams of something deeper: stress, frustration, and a team that might be carrying too much pressure in their bodies. Here's the part most fans don't want to hear. When a team starts stacking these incidents, it's usually not because they suddenly became dirty. It's because something internally is off. Sometimes it's losing. Sometimes it's expectations. Sometimes it's the weight of a season where you feel like you're good, but not good enough. And that creates a dangerous mix. You start trying to force the game. You try to take shortcuts to swing momentum. You start playing the opponent instead of playing the moment. The Steelers, culturally, pride themselves on being the toughest room in the league. The brand is hard-nosed, disciplined, next man up, handle your business. When fines and suspensions become a storyline, it doesn't just cost money, it attacks the identity. And when identity gets questioned, players either lock in or they start proving things the wrong way. So let's connect the dots the way a locker room would see it. If you're a defensive player and you feel like your offense isn't finishing drives, you start feeling like every possession is life or death. You get tighter, you get angrier, you start thinking, I have to make something happen right now. If you're in a close game and you've been battling for 4 quarters, fatigue turns into frustration real quick. If you're being held, grabbed, chipped, and the refs aren't calling it the way you think they should, that frustration builds. And in that mindset, one split-second decision can turn into 15 yards and a fine. And that's why the Highsmith moment matters so much, because it wasn't some random thing in the first quarter that no one remembers. This happened in the most sensitive part of the game, on Detroit's final drive where every inch mattered. The penalty moved the Lions into Steelers territory. That's not just playing hard, that's handing the other team a gift at the worst possible time. Now let's go directly into what happened with Highsmith, because that's the core of this conversation. Alex Highsmith was fined $12,172 for tripping Lions quarterback Jared Goff. It was called a 15-yard penalty on the field, and it came during Detroit's final drive of the game. That is the exact combination you never want: quarterback contact, a technique that looks bad on replay, and timing that changes the field position battle when the game is hanging by a thread. So what did he actually do? Tripping in football terms is exactly what it sounds like: extending a leg or using your lower body in a way that impedes the runner's legs, making them stumble or go down. It's not a normal tackle. It's not wrap and drive. It's not hit the thighs. It's a move that the league hates because it looks intentional and it can cause weird injuries. Whether a player means it or not, the optics are brutal, and the NFL does not play with optics when quarterbacks are involved. Now is Highsmith to blame? Here's my honest, brutal take. He's responsible for the action, even if he did mean it the way people assume. That's the standard at this level. If your body does it and the ref calls it, you own it. Period. But do I think Highsmith is some dirty player? No, and that's important. Highsmith's reputation for most people is effort, motor, professional, high character, relentless edge presence. He's not known as a cheap shot artist. So when a guy like that gets flagged and fined for something like tripping, I don't automatically go, oh, he's dirty. I go, he's frustrated, or he's gassed, or he made a desperate choice in a desperate moment. And that's where Steelers fans have to be careful, because it's easy to either defend him blindly like, that's football, stop being soft, or attack him like, he cost us everything. The truth is in the middle. Yes, it's a mistake, and it's a mistake you cannot make in that moment. But the bigger issue is what that mistake represents. It represents a team living on the edge emotionally. It represents a defense that may feel like it needs to be perfect. It represents a player trying to stop a drive in any way possible, because the pressure is screaming in his head that if they cross midfield, it's over. And I'm going to say something even more blunt. That's what happens when a team isn't calm in clutch moments. The best teams don't just have talent, they have composure, they have emotional stamina. The Steelers have always been the kings of emotional stamina, so if they're slipping into this kind of chaos, it means the internal temperature is too high. Now, do I agree with the fine? From the league's perspective, yes. The NFL is going to punish anything that looks like tripping a quarterback, especially late, especially in a critical drive. They want it out of the game. They want defenders to wrap, tackle, or pull off anything but leg sweep type actions, so the fine makes sense. From a football perspective, you can argue intent all day. You can argue he was off balance, he was trying to avoid a worse hit, he was trying to stop momentum. But the NFL doesn't care about your inner monologue. They care about the result and the video evidence. Now let's put the Steelers' situation into a wider frame, because Highsmith isn't alone in the conversation. When DK Metcalf is being mentioned in disciplinary terms and Yahya Black is part of an incident discussion, it tells you this isn't one isolated moment. It's a pattern that fans are starting to feel. Pittsburgh is playing angry. And again, some anger is good. Anger can be fuel, it can give you edge, but uncontrolled anger is a leak in the boat. It's the thing that sinks a playoff team in a wildcard game because you kept giving away free yards. So how does Pittsburgh overcome this? How do they restore reputation and stop being the team people side-eye? It starts with leadership inside the building, not speeches to the media, not vague "we have to be better," real accountability. The defensive leaders, captains, veterans, and yes, the coaching staff need to make it crystal clear, we don't trade discipline for aggression. You can hit, you can dominate, you can play mean, but you cannot play stupid. Because here, what penalties do psychologically. Penalties don't just move the ball, they deflate your own sideline. They energize the opponent. They make the other team feel like the football gods are on their side. They create, here we go again, energy in your own stadium. And once a team starts feeling that, it spreads. Second, the Steelers need internal consequences that matter. Not just the NFL fine, team consequences. Something like extra film study, loss of certain privileges, or a clear internal standard. If you take a selfish penalty in a critical moment, you answer to the room, not publicly, internally. The Steelers have always been at their best when the locker room polices itself. Third, coaching has to coach emotion, not just scheme. People underestimate this. The best staffs don't only teach coverage and pass rush lanes. They teach players how to respond when the refs miss a call. They teach the next play mindset as a skill. They drill situational football until it's muscle memory. 2-minute defense, late-game discipline, quarterback contact rules, what you do when you're a step late. Because late hits and tripping moments often come from being just slightly late, physically or mentally. Fourth, the team has to address whatever is causing the emotional pressure. And yes, I'm going there. If players feel like they have to play hero ball because the offense can't close, or because they're constantly protecting a thin margin, that stress shows up as reckless decisions. That's not an excuse. That's an internal scenario that needs fixing. Complementary football is emotional regulation. When your offense sustains drives, your defense plays calmer. When your defense trusts it won't be abandoned, it plays smarter. Finally, the Steelers need to reclaim what Steelers football actually means in 2025. Disciplined violence. Not chaos, not tantrums, not freebies. Disciplined violence is the brand, and it's fixable. Because the truth is, Alex Highsmith is not the villain of this story. He's a symptom. A great player who made a costly mistake in a moment where the team needed calm. And if Pittsburgh learns from it, really learns from it, this can become a turning point. But if they do, if this keeps happening, then the league will keep fining them, opponents will keep baiting them, refs will keep watching them closer, and the Steelers' reputation will quietly shift from tough and smart to tough but reckless. And that's the kind of reputation that follows you into the playoffs like a shadow. So here's the real challenge for Pittsburgh. Keep the edge, lose the ego. Keep the aggression, lose the panic. Keep the identity, lose the unnecessary penalties. Because the next time it's a final drive and the margin is razor thin, you don't need a heroic moment. You need discipline, you need composure, you need the Steelers to look like the Steelers again.